All righty, welcome to the Elementor Gwinnett County meetup for February 10th. Tonight we're going to be talking about the new Elementor Flexbox container element. In fact, it's so new it's not been released in a public version, but you can access it as an experiment in the beta versions. And I'll show you. Let's see, let me move this down here. You need to have, what you do is you go to the plugin, add new plugins, and you search for Elementor Developer Edition. Developer Edition. I didn't spell it right. Okay, and you'll see it's got this dev on it, and you can download that to your computer and install it. And then when you or in your plugins, let's see, plugins. There they are. When you install the Elementor Beta Developer Edition, this one right here, then you will get a notification that you need to update Elementor and Elementor Pro to their dev versions. And of course, the Elementor, these dev versions are being updated all the time. Look, because this shows that this is the 37th iteration of the dev version of 3.6. And then this is 3.7 dev 17. So if you want to go down that road, feel free. I'm not sure when this is going to be released in a live version of Elementor, but I hear things that tell me it's going to be relatively soon. You don't want to run this on a live site because it's not. There's still buggy things in it. Not too many, but I've run into one or two. So, but you can put this on a staging server or a local install and play around with it. And that's kind of what I thought we'd do today. So what Flexbox container does, let's go to our event page. And the most important thing here is that the Flexbox container will replace the section, column, and intersection widgets. So when you go into Elementor now, if you go to, you will not see intersections, you will not see columns, you will not see sections. So a container is now, whatever used to be a section would be a container. Whatever used to be a column would be a container. And no need for intersections, because you can take containers and put them inside containers and put them inside containers. And as far as I know, of course, it would be pointless to go, put 100 containers inside each other, but you can, I guess. But so those limitations have been taken away. One of the things too about it is that's why one of the reasons it's being looked forward to is it reduces the DOM. You might have heard that term before. The document object model. When you look at a page source for your website, all that code is the DOM. And one of the big knocks on Elementor not so much lately, because they've been improving over the last 6-9 months, is that their code was bloated. And to have, because we went through an exercise in a previous meetup talking about using tools that existed at that point to take something that was using a section and a column and then an intersection with 3 columns. And every time you have a section, every time you have a column, an intersection and columns in there, each one of those is a div. And we could take it down to having just the section and the column, and then using, if you remember, there's the feature of when you go to advanced and positioning, you can go inline, and then you have the option of those options of space between and so on and so forth. That was a little taste of Flexbox, but so it really, this will now reduce the DOM even more, because essentially this container here is a single container with 3 widgets, whereas before it would have been a section, a column with 3 widgets. So, but we can do more. We can do some interesting things in design here.
Carrie, can I interrupt? Do you mean it would, like right now, it's a section with 3 columns and inside each column is a widget?
Well, right now, no, this is a container. To see when I
Right,
select
but
on it.
previously, or the way we're all currently working.
Correct.
Yeah,
So this
right,
gets
right,
rid of the whole column concept.
right.
So you
Sections
could
and-
have six of these widgets across and it would no longer be 6 columns.
Right. Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And they're just the widgets now. Like this deal here. This is a single container with 6 widgets. There's no columns involved. So let's take a look at how this stuff works. Looking at see if I've covered everything. Oh, if you decide you want to do this, when you install Elementor, you want to go to settings and experiments and make sure container is active. And I think yeah, that's all I think you really have to have, is the container is active. If it's not active, you won't have access to these things. So, okay, so this is a page that before I get that, there was one other thing I wanted to say before we proceeded. There are some gotchas out there, and generally, even for Elementor as a whole, you know, because WordPress 5.9 is out, and of course, the whole thing about WordPress 5.9 is it's introducing site editing with an expanded role for the Gutenberg editor, with the idea that you could actually build the whole site using Gutenberg blocks. But it only works really if you have a block-based theme. And those are not terribly prominent yet, but they're going to start flooding the market. And the reason I mention this is if you have WordPress 5.9 and you have a block theme, then some of your controls will go away. Let's see here. Like for instance, we go down to appearance and we see all these things here. All but 2 of these go away. There's themes and I can't remember what the other one is. And the big thing is menus. Menus is gone. And Elementor at this point doesn't have access to menus, because the menus are created inside of Gutenberg in the navigation bar or widget. I think that's what they call it. So Elementor is not going to work for you if you use WordPress 5.9 and block-based theme at this point. So bear that in mind. If you put a block-based theme on your site and have what 5.9 and you can't understand why Elementor is not doing what you expected, that's probably the reason. All righty. So I've set up a few things to kind of demonstrate some of the things that can be done. Flexbox can get kind of complicated, but what we're going to do is we're going to start at the simple stuff, and then we're going to do, this is part 1 of this series, and in part 2 we're going to go into some more minutia that can be helpful. There's one thing I want to share with you guys. I ran across this page about 5 years ago, and I've kept it bookmarked all this time. And this is a wealth of information about Flexbox. It explains how all the terminology, what that means, and it gives you visual representation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that link into chat. And do check it out. I mean, they've got all kinds of good information. They give you diagrams of what stuff. Of course, if you're doing it in HTML, this is the code for stuff. You know, what it says, justify content, what does flex start mean, flex in, center, all this and that. And then they have some interesting examples, tricks, browser support, which is important. When I first started looking at this was not very well supported, but it looks like it's just about everything supports it except IE11. And well, we won't talk about that.
Yes, and it should be said, IE11 will never support it.
I'm sorry?
I don't think IE11 will ever support it.
No, I mean, Microsoft has stopped supporting IE11, so it's just out there.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, okay, so here we are. We've got 3 images, and they're in a row, and we can take a look. We go to the layout, and we see new things. We have direction, and we've got row set. We have multiple, and this is one of it's kind of a bug, because if you hit default, well, when it first starts out, I should have tested this before. When it first starts out, it shows default and it shows it as a column, but we wanted it as a row. I guess once you set the row, it stays that way. One other, while I'm thinking about it, bug I've seen is if you add a container, maybe that's because I added it inside of another one. What I've been seeing is that you add a container and it puts it in twice. Let's see here. Oh well, we'll get back to that. If you run into that, that's not uncommon and they know about it. So anyway, back to this. We've got this container. We're in the container, and you can set width, and I have this one set at a minimum height for a reason. I'll show you in a sec. And we've got it going in the direction of row. And right now, let's do flex start. The line items, you see what's happening here? We're in a row, but it's arranging the alignment vertically. So this is the top, this is the center, and this is the end. I'm going to go back here and we'll do this. So, sure I got that. Okay. Then if I go to, okay. So you could do some interesting things if we made this this container maybe a little bit higher. I mean, you could make a like a cascading thing. Let me go back to 5. I think we had 500. And let's see, you can.
Hey, Carrie, can I ask you another question? I hope I'm not
Bet.
jumping. But like you do in sections, can you fill this container with a background image or video?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, you can fill it with whatever you want.
Okay.
So, yeah, and it's same deal. It's it behave. I mean, just like you could with a section or a widget, you can do it with this. Okay, so this is aligning, arranging items in a row vertically. In other words, it's a row, but you can adjust them vertically. And then we got rearrange order of items. So we have, okay, so right now they're in the order that we put them in. But if we go to, well, you can do one thing. Let's go back to the container layout. The direction you can go reverse row, which just reverses everything. And this might be handy if you had like 2 columns and you had the picture on the right and your text on the left, but when you went down to mobile, you'd want the picture on top and the text underneath. You could just reverse the order of the items. And so you can do reverse row. That's something that you can order, but you can order individually on the items. So let's say I'm going to pick this one here. Don't like that popping up. So we go to we choose the item and we go to advanced and we go to order, and we see this will start and this is the end. So let's go to end and see it puts it at the end. And we put this at the start, or you can give them numbers. Let's say I want this to be number 2. And let's say this is, hate that. I want this to be, let's see, order number 3. And then of course this would be, man, that's a pain, isn't it? I don't like that. Here we go. And we could go.
Is the navigator always auto pop?
No, that's, I mean, I don't know if that's going to be a standard thing, but I hate that.
Yeah, me too.
How about if you unlock it?
So anyway, so we've got tools to rearrange the order. And that we right now are using custom order, but we could just go back. Well, I'm not going to mess with that. Then we have horizontal spacing in a row. So, you know, this can come in handy when you're doing like a header or something. So we've got this container. We've got 3 images, and there's room to move them around. So we want to go to, we're in a row, we're going to go justify content. And this is flex start, which basically means the beginning. This is center. It centers everything. And this is flex end, which pushes everything to the end. Then we have space between, which pushes everything to the edge and puts an equal amount of space in between here. Then we have space around, and this is kind of confusing. If you look at the spacing here, that is exactly 1/2 of the spacing here. Because what's happening is they're putting equal space here and here and here and here and here and here. So that's space around. And then there's space evenly, which puts exactly the same space between the edge of the column or the container and in between the images and the other side of the column. So those can be very helpful. So let's see here. Then we have the ability to arrange items that wrap. I really like this one. I've got, right now I've got 6 info boxes. And this isn't 2 rows, this is 1 row, but it's set up to wrap. And part of the trick is when you set up your, whatever it is you're going to have in there. Let's see, we go to content, yes, advanced. We set the width to have enough room to where it'll fit, because I tried this at 33 1/3, and after I duplicated them, and the third one kind of wrapped to the bottom, so there has to have a little bit of wiggle room in there. So we set the width there, and that's under advanced. And so what we've got here, see if I can explain it visually. So we have it space between, and you'll see we have the ability to wrap. If I go no wrap, it goes like that. It makes it into what appears to be 6 columns. If I wrap it, it'll go like that. Now, if I let me see, do I have this set to a okay? So if I duplicate this, it just adds it to the bottom.
Gary, Oscar does have a question for you.
Okay, Oscar, what's up?
Hey, Gary, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Everybody. Sorry to be late. I have a question regarding the order. Why don't you just pull one on top of the other that they will arrange by themselves? And why don't you use positioning instead of having to play with the width?
I'm not sure I understand what you said, positioning, because
And the advanced, click on advanced. Click on one of the widgets. Okay, advanced, positioning.
well, positioning is no longer there.
Oh,
This takes the place of that.
Yeah.
No wonder why I was thinking it was the same thing.
Yeah.
Just renamed it.
And that's something real important to understand, is that it's replacing sections and intersections and such. So a lot of your controls either will be gone or replaced or moved. So the whole layer looks different.
There
Go
is
ahead,
something
Ryan.
called position, though, that position field that's underneath where it says align self order, and then position, which is set right to default. What are your options there? Yeah, if you change that.
You can do absolute fix, but I think what Oscar was talking about, there was a tab in here called positioning, I think.
Yeah.
Right, for custom positioning.
Yep, and then you could, in one of the settings in that section was to put it in line, which took away, like if you put a button on a section, the button would go, if you mouse over it, the little blue box would go all the way to the ends, unless you had it in a column. Well, if you changed it to the positioning to inline, the blue box would come right to the edge of the button. And if you had another button underneath it that you change the positioning to inline, it would go up next to the other button. And then you could just put padding in there. And that was one of the ways you could get around having to use all these columns. But you would also, and you could move around. And if you look at different current setup of Elementor, if you looked at how about the spacing, it would use flex terms like space between, space around, start, end, that kind of thing. So,
By the way, when did that happen? I missed it.
well, this isn't live yet. This is a developer edition. We talked about that in the beginning.
No wonder why. Thank you.
Now we're in. Let's see here. Let's see if I can get to it. We are in these plugins. As we talked about at the beginning, at the top, we install the Elementor Beta Developer Edition plugin, and we don't want to do this on a live site. You do it on a staging or a test site or local machine or something. When you install this, you will then be prompted to update your Elementor and Elementor Pro versions to the latest dev versions. So this is, and of course you see it says dev there. And this is, this container thing is an experiment. And so you activate it when you're doing this. So when this is going to be in production, I don't know. Who knows? But it's out. Looks like it's moving along fairly well. So then we can do a lot of what we've done so far with rows. We can do it with columns, and let's take a look at that. So let's pick this picture. Now let's pick this picture, and we'll go to item, and align self is a little different because you can do things in positioning with from the actual element. So if we go, that will go to center in the container. We check this, and then we go to there, goes to the end, and then see it's pushed it to the top. That's the start order. Starting from the top down, and you could put this at the bottom. You could do all kinds of crazy stuff, and then of course you could number them again. So let's put this guy back up at the top. Put this one here, left and left. And of course, you see I've got the width set at 32%. Then we can rearrange the order of items in a column, just like we could in a row. So we go to advanced, and then we go to order, and we pick this one, and we can go. Well, we can see we already did the align self. We go here. See, it flips it, brings it to the top, or I can make that the top, or I could make this the bottom. You can rearrange order, and this may seem like, well, what's the big deal? Well, this is more than you could do before, but also, so you can do it you can change it when you get to, for whatever reason you wanted to, you can change it between. So let's see, it's got that positioning on a tablet, but if we go to let's. You see, did you notice? No, I didn't. Supposed to. I might have been in the wrong one. Okay. So let's go to order. We're in the rearrange orders of items from column. Okay, that's where we were. So let's take this. Well, it's already set to top. So I guess it has some sort of hierarchical thing. So we could take that and move it to the bottom. Okay, so that's what that's on. That order on a tablet. And we go to desktop. And it's back to the way it was on desktop. So you can change it between viewports. And then we have horizontal spacing in a column. And we can go, let's choose the right container. It's going to take a while to get used to the lingo because we know sections won't, of course. Oh, one other question that people have. Okay, when, let's say that the Flexbox container is released in 3.65. You can still use sections. If you created a website that had sections, the sections will still be there. The columns will still be there, but you'd have the, and you can just keep working. They're in the process of trying to figure out how to convert the old sections, columns, and all that stuff over to containers. And I saw a video on it a week or two ago, and they've gotten it pretty good, but there's still some polishing that has to be done. So I guess the idea is that at some point you'd be able to just say, okay, convert all my sections and columns to containers, but that could be scary. So we have horizontal spacing in a column. And so we'll go to pick an item. Let's pick this item. Yeah. And we'll go to advanced, which is where we are, and align self. Let's make this center. So this one, make end. And then we could take them, let's see, we pick this one. What happens here? So it comes down to the end and that one pushes up because remember, this is a column, but it's kind of a weird column because it's thinking this is the top piece in the column, this is the middle piece in the column, this is the bottom piece. But they don't have to necessarily all be in a line, they can be moved around. So let's see this one. Now we're getting to go that way. It's just all kinds of combinations that you could do. And so we can go back to the way it was. Although I'm going to put that at the bottom again. And we're going to take this and go here. Right. So hopefully you can see that this opens up a lot of things. This feature here of things wrapping automatically, I like. Because like if you're adding a bunch of photos and you're not using, maybe it's not something that you're using an image gallery or anything like that, but you want to be able to add stuff and not have to create new sections and new columns and all that kind of stuff. You just keep adding and it'll just wrap around. So that's pretty cool. So Now, there's more advanced things that we'll talk about next time. Do take a look at this page. Because I think because we can get into, we've talked about the flex direction and the flex wrap, but then there's flex grow, which you can make it to where something fills up the space. And we'll talk about that next time. Then flex shrink, which is in flex flow. We talked about the justify content. And we talked about the align self. And there's align items where you can do everything centered, everything up the top. And then you can stretch them out depending on the kind of content it is, or you can align if you have text inside of an element, you can do a baseline. And there's just all kinds of visual aids to help you understand what this terminology means. So I really suggest that you bookmark that because you can find it helpful. So
Carrie, let me ask you this. Are those settings within Elementor inside those Flexbox? Do we have all of those choices? I saw right there, that was a little older, so it was showing the code. But are those actual settings that we'll have to choose from?
well, you have let's see here. Well, we've seen order. They don't call it flex direction. I think they call it just direction.
Gotcha.
in
Okay.
Elementor. I don't know that I've seen flex grow in there, but we have the wrap and the justify content and align self and align items. I don't think I've seen the grow and shrink. I'll have to do some research on that. Of course, when we meet next month, they may have added that in here because this is still a thing in progress. So
Yeah.
so I think it's going to be a big deal. A lot of people in the Elementor world do, like I don't know if you're all familiar with WP Tut's Paul C. In November, when the beta first came out, he was saying this might be the biggest update ever.
Yeah, it's a game changer.
Yeah, that kind of thing. So that's the first phase of Elementor Flexbox, and there are some videos that you might be interested in. I'm going to put a couple of links in here. One is from WP Tuts, which is kind of just a basic overview, no real depth. Let's see if that'll go in. And then the other one is from a YouTube channel called Element How, and the guy really goes into looking at the code. How I was talking about initially, how that the old way you'd have 12 divs to create a section with maybe an intersection with three or four columns, and then a column next to that. And with the Flexbox, you can take it down to 4 divs. And when you're doing a big long page, that can add up. So, and it'll make it load faster and render faster, I think. So, is any questions on what we've talked about? Or
I guess my concern is just what happens to our old sites.
well,
Same question I'm making.
Yeah.
What's
I
going to
think-
happen to the old websites?
yeah, I think. Well, my understanding is that if you, we all have webs. No one has any websites, at least probably shouldn't have any websites that are live that are using Flexbox containers. because it's not ready for prime time. But when it is, the sections and columns, if you build something with sections and columns, it'll still work and it'll still show sections and columns, I think. But I think so. But there'll be a way, there's supposed to be a way that they're gonna have for you to convert your sections and columns to containers. Because all sections would be a container, all columns would be a container, whether they're intersections, because you wouldn't have any more intersections, because you can put containers inside of containers and arrange them just like you would any other element. So we'll probably talk about that next time. So
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I've got a site I'm working on now where this really could help me out. I've got two columns, and I've got images in the columns, and then the second column is a bit longer, and I wanted to put a button at the end. So I've got button in the first column, just because it's shorter, just to balance out the layout a bit. But then when you go to the mobile version, then the button shows up in between everything, when everything stacks underneath from the second column.
right.
So this would certainly help if I could move that button down to the end of the second column in the mobile version.
Right.
Which I
Yeah,
can't now. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had similar frustrations, like creating something to where there might be an image and text, and then you have a button underneath that says read more. But the text is not all the same height. So your buttons would be, kind of stair-stepped. And I've had clients say, well, can we make all the buttons in the same direction? Even though the text isn't the same, make them all, and it'll drive you crazy to do that, because all you can do is do padding, but then depending on the way, a browser would affect that, because the way, say, Firefox and Chrome render pixels is different. So spacing can be off, because a pixel is not on Firefox is not the same as a pixel in Chrome, and the way they render fonts is a little bit different. So this would help a lot. Let me show you something here. This is done kind of with something like what Flexbox could do, because what's going on here is we have a section with 3 columns, but this column has these 3 elements are what we were talking about before. They're positioning, they're set to inline, so that they all line up together with, some, I think I probably put the padding on the pay invoice button, so on each side, but I just went to positioning, put them in line and in line and in line, and then they all stacked up with each other, and then just added some padding. So, and I don't remember if I used the space between or those features, but it could be doing something like this header and other headers. The Flexbox would be perfect for it, because
What happens to that when you change devices? Go to a tablet or mobile.
Well, this isn't a good site to show, because this one's still in development. Let me see if I can find one.
And because I've done the same thing, but when the responsiveness goes crazy when you change.
Well, it's a challenge sometimes. You have to, I've done, sometimes I've had to create multiple,
Pages,
let me see here.
because I've done that too.
See how this one works. this one is, oh, got the wrong thing. Being able to, I think this is 2 columns. And it just goes underneath. It can be a challenge when you have websites that have a lot of stuff in their header. Let's see, second chance. Yeah. See, this one was kind of a challenge because we got all this stuff and then so it'll be easier. Let's just say that.
Harry, I'm kind of curious as to how many containers you can stack inside of each other before you really start seeing a degradation in performance.
Yeah, and
And I think one of the nice things about Flexbox is that you're not going to need it because of the control it gives you. You're not going to need containers and containers, containers like you need with sections and columns and intersections.
okay, let's so anybody have any questions? Something you've been struggling with, or a nut you just can't crack?
I've got one that's driving me crazy right now.
Okay.
Give me just a second and I'll pull it up. Do you want me to share my screen?
Give it a shot. Yeah.
Find out which screen I'm on.
Okay.
So are you seeing this?
Yes,
The
sir.
cars?
Yes, sir.
Okay, my problem is, let me refresh this so you can see the motion.
Okay.
See how the bottom comes up and the right comes over? And,
Right.
and I can't, if I go to, and this is not going to do right. It still works good on tablet size.
Right.
When you get down to mobile
Right.
and I do the refresh, watch what happens. The picture gets covered up and I can't figure out how to stop that from doing it. I even turned off that section that rises on mobile and it's still not making any difference.
The picture gets covered up. Which picture? That picture there?
This picture gets covered up by this section.
Okay.
And let me go over here. Pages.
Yeah, if I could see it in Elementor, maybe that'd be helpful. Okay.
Now, when you do it responsive here, it shows that it's working fine.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, it doesn't. And of course, I don't have any way to unlock it. Okay, no, that's gonna take me out of responsive when I do that.
Also in mobile, your logo got teeny tiny up there. You're going to want to adjust that.
So tell me about when you have it on the, go back to the desktop view. Click on some of these elements so I can understand what they are.
Let's say the navigator. Let's say the navigator.
Okay, this is a section, I think, with a background.
Okay,
Yes.
so that's good. Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, and so we've got another section here that is the one that actually has the motion, I think.
Okay.
No, it's not that one.
Hmm.
It's this column. Has the motion that fades it up on that
Right.
part. This
Right.
part has a separate motion that slides it in from the right.
Right, right. So we got two
Do you have
sections.
that hero, is that hero section set to appear on mobile? In advance?
Yes. Yes.
Click on
Okay,
the
let's
hero
go.
section. Click on the hero section for a second, please.
And then go over to advanced.
No, wait. The hero section goes all the way. I mean, it goes under. See, the frame, the blue frame goes all the way down to the bottom of the screen. Isn't it supposed to finish where at
Well,
the
it
bottom
said
of the
it-
red car?
It's set at 91 on viewer height. Is that what you're asking, Oscar?
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah, but
actually,
what is the height of the section of the
yeah,
out of
this
the
section
section?
scrolls up over the bottom of that background picture.
Right.
What about the column position being at bottom? What does that affect?
Well, it actually moves that column down to the bottom.
Oh, that guy. Okay. Okay. Hmm.
But I get the
That
feeling
should
part
be a
of it
separate
is,
section, that
Yeah.
auto detail perfection, maybe put that in a separate section under the hero section so that they're separated. They're not, you know what I mean? Well, that isn't a
He's
separate.
got it set up to
Well-
where it has the,
And let me tell you, this is an Elementor kit. That's
Oh,
what
this
this
is one of
started
theirs?
out as an Elementor kit.
Oh,
Give me a second, I'll show you.
but you know that top section that is actually the entire section, there's nothing in it except the
Except that
background
background
and the
photo.
columns at the bottom. So
That is correct.
when it, so it's not gonna hold, that picture is in the background, so it'll cover it up at random depending on the action of the columns at the bottom there. Because you don't have that, because it's in the background, it has no.
oh, look
it's
at
just
that.
no-
So what does this do on mobile?
That's an Elementor kit.
Yeah.
Yes, it looks just like what you have. So what happens here when you look at mobile? It's fine? So you're gonna have, maybe you have to just check your setting against what they have here, because yours should look like this.
Yeah, and I didn't change anything.
There's got to be something. That's so weird. There's a setting somewhere on that image, on that hero image area. There's something in that section that's screwed up. Don't you
Dennis,
think, Carrie?
Dennis, I think
well,
it's
I mean, there
like
could be a lot of things I would, I would go to, I would ask, Guy mentioned, I would take a look at, I guess that picture container is the hero section. I would select it and then go over to advanced and go to responsive and make sure that it's meant to show on a phone. You know what I'm saying? Over here where choose your hero section.
The other thing too is since
And
this
go to
section
advanced.
concludes all these items,
You don't even have
making sure that those bottom
Yeah,
column
click responsive. I'm sorry.
sections.
Click responsive. Nope, it's supposed to be. Okay,
And now I don't know that the kit is that way.
can you
Pull up the
can you
kit,
see
maybe.
this from the front end?
Pardon?
Can we see this from the front end? Like, okay, now start shrinking your browser width down. Just, no, I mean gradually. Or you can expand it. Go ahead and pull it out. Let's see. I want to see what happens as you gets bigger and smaller. Just pull it.
Put it to the right.
Well, I can't go much further. That's the edge of my screen.
No, to the right, not to the left.
Make it full screen, yeah.
Well, what I was wanting to see was,
I think it's significant that those two, the two text column areas are the same height, no matter, just about, no matter the width of the viewport. So they don't really change that much other than centering once you start closing the viewport. So they end up covering up that background image. So there's just something about them covering up the background image of that empty top part that needs to
I'll
be
start
fixed.
dragging it to the left.
What if you put a spacer,
Yeah, I'm thinking that too, Sue.
What's
Um,
that?
drag a spacer?
A spacer in the background on mobile.
Yeah, so then it might
Oh.
not collapse.
Well, you probably put the spacer in. Let's go to the
Put it in here and then try it.
Go where, Carrie?
The Elementor, yeah, yeah, okay. So let's, you got the home section. Let's go to the Rubik's Cube icon up at the top there and type in this spacer. And then slide that over into the middle of your, I don't see a, no. That's interesting.
Yeah, drop it. I would drop it there.
The problem with this,
Above that.
well, I can't. I drop it there, it just goes back. This
Okay,
is
let's-
a background image on this section.
Right, but you need to, every section has a column in there somewhere.
It's down here.
Ah,
Remember, it's moved to the bottom.
gotcha. Okay, so let's take a look at it in tablet.
In what?
Let's look at it in tablet. Okay. Okay, and then, so I'm starting to understand, I think. So, okay, and then if you go to mobile, let's see here. Okay, so,
I got it. Let me see the height of the column that contains the auto detail perfection. The height of the column.
This one?
Yes. See, because go to advanced height. Where is it? No,
Yeah, there's not one.
okay, let's see.
no,
Go
but
back to the mobile view.
let me think of this. Look at the height that it has on desktop right now. Put it on a tablet.
That it has where, Oscar?
The height of the dark gray background.
Okay, that's the column I'm in.
Okay, look at that height. Now put it on tablet.
But there is no height.
Okay, but put it on tablet. Let me see the tablet view.
He's asking
Oh.
to see the tablet.
That height is the same that we had. Now, when you put it on this on mobile, the height is still going to be the same, but they're going to be stacked one on top of the other, and that's what is covering it.
On the go back to the mobile.
Because that entire section is always, what, 91% view
Yes.
height? And
Yes.
so to get those other columns to fit,
And I tried changing that on mobile too.
Well, go to that column, the column that's auto detail.
Okay, that's what I
Go to
mean.
the column, click on the icon at the column. In your, yeah, click on that. And column width, vertical, align, middle. Go to advanced in your edit column. And what happens if you put a margin on top?
All right, no, that's going to be on the column, not on the column, but do it on the section.
The intersection or the whole section?
No, the hero section.
Well, that would be a padding. Probably. There you
There you
go.
go. It's gonna start to
you're
appear.
gonna-
That's gonna start to appear. See, because they're stacking on this. They're the same height, 91.
Right,
See,
Right.
91, but they're stacking one on top of the other. And 91 plus 91 is 182 of the viewport height.
Well, it's
So they're gonna
percentage
be covering
wise,
the
so
back. They're gonna be covering the background.
right. When the 91 that he was talking about, Oscar, was percentage, not pixels, I think.
Yeah,
So-
Yes, that's
91%, 91% on the left column and 91% of the right column where they're stacked, that's 182.
Yeah.
Despite of being percentage. Because that's a fixed percentage.
Yeah, so that looks like a workable solution there. What do you think?
Yeah, that's works good for me.
Good deal.
Let me try one more thing on my
I-
actual phone.
John, I also have a crazy question for you all,
Okay,
if you have
we're
time.
good at crazy questions.
Here, let me
Trying
unshare.
to figure this one out.
Thank you, everyone.
You
Wow,
bet.
good detective work.
I
That's what
can always depend on Oscar to find something.
What?
I said, I can always depend on you to find something.
This is what it's all about, helping
Yeah.
others.
What's your crazy question, Sue?
I'm going to show you. I can't go into the back end because it's a whole crazy VPN. Oh, darn. You know what, Carrie, my Zoom preference, I don't want to, hang on a minute. Will it let me do it? Just a sec. Let me see if I can share my screen. Okay, it'll let me share my screen. I actually have a call in to someone who's supposed to help me with this tomorrow, but I want to show you all.
Okay,
This is something I'm doing for a college at Charleston, and
okay,
it's very complex.
right,
It's an archival exhibition of all these old postcards of historic synagogues around the American South.
okay,
And there's like 10 types of architectural styles.
okay,
Well, lo and behold, when some of these postcards were printed, they weren't all horizontal. Most of them were, for example, like this.
hmm,
And you get a nice horizontal, and then we have this single post page, and they all align pretty well, blah, blah, blah. But here and there, you get somebody who printed a vertical postcard. So what I did is, for one like this, when I made a horizontal shape, this postcard is centered. It's got white on left and right sides. Because before I did that, this postcard took up, like, you'd scroll, and it came all the way to like down here
got it,
because of the width that's on the single post page.
right,
So here it looks nice. Okay, it's not too crazy big, but here's the issue. The featured image now shows the white on either side, and it doesn't look nice like all these other ones, which are horizontal. So I have a call into somebody, but like what it creates, like, how can I go in to this guy and change this featured post, featured image to be its own full bleed image? There's,
well, what you can't, I don't know about what theme, and is this done in Elementor?
it's Elementor with Astra.
Oh, okay, good combination.
Set it
Um,
up.
What you could do, maybe, is you could, in the page settings,
I'm going to show you.
seems
another-
like on some of them, you can, if for those pages that are problematic like that,
Look at this.
yeah, you could set the feature image as what you have showing up on the grid, if you know your archive. That could be your featured image, but have the post itself set up to where you could turn the showing the featured image on that page, turn that on or off.
Oh, so I don't have to.
You could take the vertical one and just have it be an image in the body of the post.
So is that a different single post page? It won't be like all the other ones?
No, you just have it. I don't remember what theme or, because lately I maintain like 40 something sites, and about a third of them are Elementor, and some of them have been around for
But
10.
you're pretty sure I could turn off, I could put whatever I want in the featured post, but then on the archive page, I could have the full-blown version, but on this page, I could have this other version. It doesn't have to be.
Well, it depends. Let me, if you let me share my screen, I'll take a look and
Yes,
see.
please.
Let me see if I can think about a site that,
Because I thought I had to use a featured image in there, and that's why I'm,
in some instances, you don't have to. No, wait a minute, switch counts. Yeah. Well, let's see. Trying to think of one. Let's see here.
Susan, was that made with custom post types?
Sorry?
yeah, I actually started, I was using custom post types, and we built pages in the Elementor theme builder, but then I've been working with a guy who there's also a map with a bunch of custom posts on the map, and he's really good at tool set. So then he did it all in tool set, which I'm not familiar with, but
Yeah, that's like
Is that
variation.
built with
Advanced
custom
system.
posts? Are each of those things a custom post sort of?
yes.
Could you add an element to could you create a custom post that's designed specifically for, I mean, it seems like the post that you have now works really well with landscape. Could you design another post type specifically for those vertical landscapes, and then add a data element to your post that says, is this horizontal or is this vertical? And if it is one or the other, it will use one post type or use the other post type. And so you can sort of optimize.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking that should be done. I'm just not technical enough to figure out how to do that. So I have somebody who, my tool set buddy, I think tomorrow is going to help me work on that. Because I can set up custom post types. I can create these pages in theme builder, but to do these two different types with some kind of conditional logic or something, unless there's two different types of single post pages, one for verticals, one for horizontals.
Right, I sort of get that stuff confused. I haven't done a lot of that stuff, but hearing enough of some other people, that's what I was
But
thinking.
if there was
Okay.
something like Terry said, where you don't have to use a featured post, featured image, that'd be the
Okay,
easiest.
let's see if this works.
Okay,
Let's see, I'm in a website that uses Astra and Elementor Pro or Elementor stuff. So we're in the post.
are you going to share your screen, Terry?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought, okay. Thank you. Okay, so here is the blog post,
Right.
and here is the actual thing. So here's the featured image, and the featured image shows up on the blog page. So you got it there, which is your archive page.
Right.
But let's say we don't want it to show up here. Go to the post and let's see if this works. Disable featured image.
Yeah, but you know what? Here's a problem, Carrie. This is not set up as a normal post. It's set up as it's a single post page set up in the Elementor page builder. And, oh, you think I can just go into the individual page and I'm sorry, I'm confusing myself.
Yeah, no, even if you create a single post template in Elementor, and then
Yes,
you have as part of your template, the featured image.
yes.
Well, I mean, you'd have to give it a try, but let's try this and see what happens.
Maybe you think I can disable the featured image, and then how am I gonna force it to take the image I do want? I mean,
You just put it in as an image at the top. You just go like that, add media. And put your image,
okay,
like here, I mean, essentially doing the same thing.
yeah,
But let's see.
okay. I see what you're saying. In other words, yeah, I'm gonna put in my own image versus, I have to see if it'll let me disable the featured image. Maybe that's it.
Well, if you're using Astra, you should be able to, because this is Astra settings. Let's see if this works though.
Okay.
So let's
I'll let you
update
know
it.
tomorrow. It's just a whole big deal to log in with their VPN, but yeah, if I could do that.
Nope. Or that didn't work. Let's see. Seems like it ought to work.
Well, I can try it to disable the featured image and then just manually place my own. Otherwise, it's going to be some kind of crazy alternate page.
Well, let's see. Turn this off. Let's think about how you might design the template. You could,
There's a way that the image didn't go for the width across the top. It just went for height, but I don't think I can do that.
I'm trying to think of, let's say, I mean, I wonder if you could do it with the display conditions. If you had, or classes.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to meet tomorrow with him. He's a developer. I would not be shocked if he ends up writing a piece of code or something. But if you're curious, I'll let you know. And anybody who wants to know, you can share it with them. But it's a strange problem, don't you think? Kind of weird.
Yeah,
It'll get resolved. I don't want to take up your whole evening, but I just wanted to.
no,
show
it seems like it ought to be able, it's one of those things like, it ought to be able to be done. It doesn't sound that complicated. Of course, sometimes the things that don't sound complicated turn out to be a real pain in the ass, but.
That's right. And I don't think I'm the only person in the world who ever had that issue, but.
No, I've about beat my head against my desk sometimes, thinking this should be easy, and it used to be I really would just get so frustrated, but I've learned to just put it away and look at it in the morning, and then all of a sudden I'll say, "Oh, yeah, that's how I do it."
I usually figure it out in the shower.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll let
Or
you
I'll be.
Yeah, that was not something I could intuitively figure out right away. But you don't have to share your screen anymore if you don't want, Carrie. Thank you for doing that.
Okay.
Thank you all for
Did you
indulging.
have any ideas on that, Guy?
I mean, not any other than what you were talking about.
Okay.
I'm not actually I'm not very super keen about how to use, I haven't done a lot of custom post types or custom There's another one. I confused two things, custom post types with,
Custom fields.
yes. I like to
Custom
confuse all
fields
those.
just give you additions to your admin page to place like a special gallery, to place an address, to place an image. It's fields relate to things you want to add on, additional bits of information.
Sure. Well,
And the
that's what I was thinking. You would actually add a custom field that said, you have a post type for pages that have horizontal images. You have a post type for pages that have vertical images. And then in your data set,
You know what's a pain in the
you
butt?
add the, yeah,
could.
yes.
Because there's like over 100 images and like 8 of them
Oh,
are vertical.
okay.
So I'm
Well,
hoping for an easy solution.
Easier than that.
This
Susan,
toolset guy is very clever. I think he'll have a good solution.
Susan, one thought is that if you created a custom post page in Elementor, it gives you more flexibility, so you can just put the image at the top. I guess the problem is you'd have to insert an image each one. You can still put your post, your oh, sorry, I went blank now.
This is the featured image.
Featured
not
image.
appearing at the top of the page. That's what I have to figure out, because on those crazy vertical ones, I want their featured image to be one thing,
Right.
and then their actual appearance on their single page to be another thing. So when I set up that page, you know, maybe it's not going to be a featured image. Maybe it's going to be something else, different
Yeah.
image.
But so you could do that. You could do that in Elementor, and still have your featured image on the WordPress side of it, so that when you do your posts and if you're using the featured image as your in your archive, right?
Yeah.
So that comes up as a feature image, but you're in your actual page using a different image. You're not using the feature image at the top. If you're doing it in Elementor.
Yeah, but that means I'd have to go to every page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yuck. Okay,
And
well,
if
that,
you knew that ahead of time before you started, you could maybe deal with it, but yeah, that would mean manually you'd have to go back in and
yep,
add the image to the top.
only like 120 of them.
There's nothing like repetitive tasks to make you insane. I
That's
hate
put
repetitive.
on a podcast or loud music and just mindlessly. Yeah, thanks for, that may be the solution, Kathy, but I'm hoping for something not so labor intensive. I'll let you all know. I'll
Yeah,
let
I'd be interested to know. So
I wonder if you could use a dynamic field so that for the ones that you are using your featured image, you can use a featured image, and then in the ones you don't need, you can just choose to use a different image. Do you think you can do that with dynamic fields?
I don't know if you can do that in a theme, in a theme builder page that you built, because it's going to want to populate it with a designated image, and there's got to be something other than featured image. I will find out, but everything
Maybe
you're
custom.
saying could be a possibility.
How about if you create a custom field with an image, and then you use that? So within the custom post type,
Yeah,
create a custom field that it's not a text, or it's just an
an
image.
image. It's an image field. Yeah,
Yeah, it's an image field,
yeah.
and you work on it.
These are all options. Yeah, because on the image field, if it's a custom field at the top, it's pretty much like what Carrie said. It's not the featured image down below on the lower right of the admin page. It would be at the top above the text. It would be a custom image field, which, by the way, is only available when you have the pro version of advanced custom fields. I found that out.
You
Oh,
should
really?
use pods instead.
I have been using it for so long. I didn't even, I bought it.
I
So
bought it
long.
too. I bought it a while ago, but I remember once being so frustrated, like, why can't I? And then somebody said, well, you know, you've got the freebie version. What do you want? So
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
ever get frustrated, check out the pro version.
I
And
use
you'll know why it's the pro.
pods and Elementor custom skins to do the same thing. And I hadn't paid for anything.
Nice. You're smart.
You're talking about, yeah, Elementor custom, what
Yes,
other people call LE.
correct, correct.
Yeah, yeah,
And
I've used that
It's
several
not that
times.
I was smart, Susan. I was in the Dallas group and they showed the whole thing. Sharon and Oscar.
Right time, right place.
Exactly.
I'll tell you what's a really good group is the Boulder group also.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I thought all this meetup stuff was like going away, that it's all going to be one big Elementor community thing now.
Well, they're moving it over to Elementor's platform instead of using Zoom. But a bunch of people, I don't know about recently, but 6 months or so ago when they were going to do that, the Elementor platform didn't work as well as Zoom does.
well, the virtual meeting place, they're using a service called Bevy, Bevy, to handle everything. And the Bevy video thing didn't seem to work very well, and Elementor punted on it, and at least for the time being, is letting us not use that. We're still using Zoom. So
But the meetup group part of it is going to Elementor.
yeah, the meetup part is gone. There's,
That's right. So it's not meetup anymore. It's Elementor.
right.
It's
So
Elementor Gwinnett. It's not Gwinnett meetup.
Elementor, Gwinnett. Well, if you go on to the events Elementor page, let's see. They still call them meetups, which is kind of confusing.
Yeah, I see that. Even though it's not meetup with the logo of meetup. Yeah.
Actually, I was wondering when Meetup was gonna do a cease and desist about that.
Sue
Because
them.
that's their thing.
Well, you know, it's kind of hard to copyright the word meetup because that's such a
Well, I guess.
generalized term.
I guess that's true. Maybe it's close enough that,
Like trying to copyright the word golf. Oh, you can't use golf, you know.
No, the issue is that meetup is an English word that means an informal meeting or gathering,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's what they are really. So that's why Elementor is using just the English word, where
Yeah.
it just happen to be used and think of meetup.com, but the correct name of the meetings is meetup.
Yeah, yeah. All
Susan,
righty.
are you saying the Boulder group?
Yeah, that's
Colorado.
Elementor Boulder?
Yes.
Angela Bowman's group.
That's a very good group.
Yeah, she's really, really, really good. And particularly if you want to do some WooCommerce stuff.
There's another
Although
one.
Sharon knows a lot about WooCommerce too.
Yeah, check
All
out.
righty, we're at the bottom of the hour, ever had they say it.
Time to watch the ice skating. I think ice skating might be on now.
Uh-oh.
Everyone.
And
Now that
well,
we talk about good groups, I want to recommend you guys the one at Elementor Manchester.
Oh, yeah, I second that. They're great.
They're very
I've been
good.
going to those too. They're really good.
Yeah,
Good deal.
Manchester, England.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I
so
should
it ends
check
up
that one
being
out.
sort of in the middle of the day. It ends up being like
11 o'clock.
1:30 Eastern time. So it actually works pretty
Not
well.
bad.
Yeah,
Carrie,
that is good.
do you have time for one more quick weird thing happening?
Okay, let's give it a shot.
Okay, thanks. I'll just share my screen here. I haven't been able to figure this out.
Kathy, are you in Canada?
Yeah, I'm in Toronto.
too cold.
Yes, we get used to it. So, so I've got some, I've used a post widget in Elementor,
Okay.
and I've got title,
Mm-hmm.
and then the title is repeating itself within the excerpt.
Yeah, what you need to do is use a custom excerpt, manual excerpt. You know how to do that?
No.
Okay, go to the particular post. On the back end.
Oh, click on one of those.
Well, you want to go to the post itself.
Yeah.
Okay, see what's happening is when the excerpt, it's pulling the title or because I see where you have 18th hole showing there as part of your body.
Yeah.
Or that thing, it's pulling that. So what you want to do is in the non-Elementor part of that page, if you go to your hamburger menu, exit the dashboard, and go to edit the page. Go to your excerpt, see down here in the bottom right. You can create a write the
Oh.
excerpt.
Okay.
Write what you want to be there, and
Right.
that'll show up instead because it's pulling the 18th hole from
Right.
your post.
I see. Okay, great. Thank you.
You bet.
That's great. It's driving me crazy.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
another good place for pods and Elementor custom scans,
yeah, yeah.
although you'd have to learn 2 new plugins.
Kathy, someone wrote you a note in the chat.
Oh, thank you. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Proofreader.
Okay, well,
Good thing it's
Y'all
still in
take-
development.
y'all take care. We'll be
Thank you.
picking up with more complicated parts of this Flexbox thing next time. And who knows, might be close to having it live by then. So thank you all for hanging around. It was good to see some of you that I haven't seen in a while. It was good to see the new faces. And y'all have a good evening and enjoy your Olympics.
Thanks a lot. You
Thank
have a good
you.
one.
Good
We'll see you
evening.
next time.
Thank you,
Great.
Kerry.
Thank you,
Thank
Karen.
Can I help?
Thanks, Gary.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
You bet.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
see
I'm
you.
sorry for the dumb question, but I was late. I never heard of the container before.
No, well, because it didn't exist. So,
Yeah, that's why I was lost. I
yeah.
said,
All right. Take care, Oscar. It was good seeing you.
okay, take